setting. Any Amorite talking about constitutional rights and they want to enforce the Constitution, defend the Constitution, cannot say that a person who's African American or a person of color, visible minority, is on the same plateau with them. They're lying.
Right.
The only way a person, so-called person of color, visible minority, can use the Constitution is if what? They're white or they are quote unquote Indian as defined in Article 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America, not the U.S. corporate Constitution. The Constitution for the United States of America talks about 3/5 of other people who will be taxed. That's your black, your African American, person of color, visible minority.
Right.
So I'm putting this together slowly. So when you see the end, it makes it clear. These Amorites are honoring a contract that gives them an advantage. Can everybody here agree with that? For those that are not on the mic, you can type in the chat whether you agree with it, say yes, agreed, or either yes or agreed. This means that they are committing what? Fraud. Right. Do you realize, based on the contract, and they talk about the founding fathers, that any white person contracting with a black person based on organic constitution has violated the Constitution.
Right.
So therefore, the contract established with the people who do not have standing at law, because when you enter into contracts, both parties have to have an equal footing.
Equal footing, right.
Contract where one party is above and the other is below, because it automatically gives an advantage to the superior party. Therefore, that is what they would call obfuscation and commercial fraud and even tort, because the person who had the advantage should have known, ought to have known, must have known that the contract they're entering into is fraudulent. The attorney for the weaker party should, ought to, must have, and should have brought that up. However, since the person who is black has no standing at law, the attorney should not have been doing any contracts with them. Is everybody getting what I'm saying?
Right, because first of all, attorneys work for the Bar Association. Therefore, they have no vested interest in propelling the black person to actually be equal to the white person.
What? So what is Benjamin Crump really doing? He's a janitor. That's what, did you see the movie Michael Clayton?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Okay, with George Clooney. Benjamin Crump is a black janitor. His job is to go to the Trayvon Martins, the Eric Garners, the Michael Browns, and all of that stuff, and clean that stuff up and tell the families, look, this ain't going to trial. What we're going to do is they're offering you $2 million. I suggest you take it.
Take the settlement.
Then the family takes the settlement for $2 million, and then their attorney is going to be technically still in touch with them and making sure that they fall in line. We saw that with Eric Garner in New York, where his wife got up on stage. She said, no, I don't want a damn apology. I said, yeah, that's a New Yorker right there. 2 months later, whatever, she was on Face the Nation on Sunday. Oh gosh, she got her hair permed. She was all dolled up and everything. And next minute, the guy asked her a question, and Al Sharpton was sitting. She's here, and Al Sharpton is there sitting next to her. And as soon as he asked her a question, I never seen Al Sharpton's head snap so fast, looking at her like, "Don't you do that New York stuff on me? You are not embarrassing me." Oh, well, you know, my husband, he didn't want to work. He was lazy. I said, oh, damn, they got her.
Right.
So I said, okay, cool. But I'm glad that I saw it. So this means, going back to the point, the Constitution is for white people. It is not for African Americans. The 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments to the Constitution are dead badges of law. They were, and the black attorneys are the worst, because they'll say that those amendments overturned Dred Scott. I said, really? Then why is it that none of the other constitutional amendments overturned Roe versus Wade? Why did it take the U.S. Supreme Court, which originally gave the decision, why did it take them to have to go render another decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. So all the black attorneys, esquires, solicitors out there are committing fraud. They're lying. I've asked them, show me a court case where somebody used the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments in a court case and overturned Dred Scott decision. Show me a U.S. Supreme Court decision where it was used and overturned Dred Scott, where the U.S. Supreme Court had to honor it. It doesn't exist. And the proof of that is Byron Allen when he was suing Comcast. He sued them. They turned around. He appealed. He won on the lower court. Then they appealed to the Supreme Court, and they used the 1865 Civil Rights Act, which is really for so-called black people. The corporation used it against him, and they won and got a $10 billion judgment against him.
Right.
So, on one hand, everyone who's contracting with black people is committing fraud if they do not have any kind of a statement where their rights are being protected. This is why I teach Autochthons in when they get on to the next stage to the when they get onto the training to sign everything with all rights reserved. And then once they do that, that shows that, okay, if there's an issue going back, then I'm not going to be bound by any contract that I have not been given full disclosure on. A lot of these contracts out here, they don't give disclosure. The next thing is those contracts are under maritime law. So maritime law is law of the sea that they brought onto land. So now the problem comes in where if they bring up the Constitution, and I'm surprised why none of these people who call themselves American nationals or your Russell J. Goulds and the rest of them, I'm trying to figure out how these guys ain't figured this out yet. Like, do you understand if you don't help black people to change their race and ethnicity, you have committed fraud? Not talking about genocide. Genocide don't apply. Oh no, I gotta turn your mic on. That's why you can. So now you can turn your mic on. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, can you hear me? Now I can turn your volume up.
That's me, my computer.
Okay, I just heard your voice now. Just heard your voice just now.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is.
No, don't. Hey, it is. I'm not hearing it. If you're concerned about background noise, I'm not hearing nothing. So you're straight.
That's good. That's good. Well, yeah, so, I understand what you're saying. I'm liking it. Based on my research too, it does line up. I thank you for that. But we don't want to commit fraud.
So, pardon? No, what did you say?
We don't want to commit fraud, but again, it's not brought to the attention of said contractees when filling out a contract with an African-American individual.
No,
you want to do it because there's advantage.
Yes, they want the energy. This ain't even about the money represents the energy.
Right.
So when you start looking at money as energy, right, and not looking at it as, oh, I got cash money in my hand. No, it is a piece of paper that is representing energy. So whether you want to call the dollar a 1 watt and the 5 a 5 watt, the 20 a 20 watt,
interesting,
100 watt, right? You can do all of that. It's just representative of energy. And depending on how much energy you have, that will get you something that is in equal value in the eyes of the purchaser.
Right.
So this is where the issue has come, that what are these Black lawyers? What are these human rights groups? What are these United Nations, IPOs and CSOs and NGOs? They're ignoring everything else.
Right.
And the courts aren't. The courts are saying, well, you don't have any stand in that law. And I know the courts watch my videos, so they know that I'm saying what I'm saying is true. That is a hidden secret, was, until Barack messed it up when he said, I don't consider myself the first black president, which he isn't. That was John Hanson,
Right.
because the word black has no standing at law. So that's equivalent to wearing a kick me sign. And this is where black people get very touchy. They say they get into their feelings because they're omitting the fact that this is the game. And then they're saying, okay, 5 races here, pick which one of these races that you self-identify with as this caste system that the United States has, which it acquired from the country of India.
Right. Okay.
Because there's black people in India that practice Hinduism who are originally from Ethiopia.
Right. Yes,
With woolly hair. So, but they call them over there the untouchables. They're considered bad luck, bad everything.
Right.
So what the Indians figured out in the English language was not to call themselves or align themselves with the word black. That's why they say they are brown. But that means they share the same color complexion as you. But they will say, oh, they're black. When they say that, they're talking about the color of the hair, which is incorrect syntax because there's nothing pale about your hair.
Right.
So all of that is connected with your statutory declaration of indigenous heritage. So it shows that at the point you were born and the mother signed the certificate of birth, and then the state came in, issued the bonds, and went to Treasury and SEC, that's all fraud. At the moment you become white, now you get into, oh, that was trafficking in human cargo.
Right.
Not only crimes against humanity, and because they're international trafficking, that makes that a human rights and an international issue.
Right.
But because blacks or African Americans are being told to follow civil rights people, like your what's his name, Cornel West, who knows about the SF-181, but he wanted to campaign. He knows about it. Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book "The First Americans Were Africans," that author, I spoke with him. He said he did it, but he didn't give us no proof that he did it. And I said, oh, you're a publisher. You're just trying to sell books. You ain't trying to free nobody. So that's cool. Stay writing books. That's where you're good at. Professor Mustafa Hefny, who was a professor at the University of Michigan, I've done numerous videos to alert him to the fact that, do you realize what the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan did when they said, we're dismissing your case without prejudice,
right?
When it's without prejudice, and when the plaintiff can establish, once the plaintiff, it's dismissed without prejudice, and the court will entertain it once the plaintiff establishes standing at law. That was in the decision.
Right.
So I was like, the judge is telling him, black ain't got no standing at law, but I'm going to do this without prejudice. So when you can show that black has standing at law, I'll hear your case. See if you figure out what the hell I just did. Professor Mustafa Hefny had no clue, no idea. He didn't want to hear it. He's an Egyptian, as they call it in Africa, from Nubia.
Yeah.
But because where he ran into a problem, when he said, he told the answer. When he immigrated to the U.S., he went through U.S. Customs. They said, in this country, you are classified as white, not black.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then they tell the Africans, stay away from you all on Turtle Island. That's what the U.S. Customs tells Africans who immigrate to the United States, stay away from the black people, to stay away from them.
Yeah, well, that's true. That there is a disparate dichotomy there.
Yes, but it's induced. The government induced that to keep them. Don't associate with black people in the United States. Stay away from them. You're here now. Stay away from them. And they took that to heart. They honored that contract because they want to stay in the country because they know Africans are agreeable.
Right.
So now that we got that covered. So the next thing is the commercial liability that this whole system is exposed to if the shareholders knew what I knew, which is what I just told you, the stock market's got to go to zero because nobody
Right.
wants to hold investments where it's shown that people have conscripted people. If someone's outside of the system, can you do business with them?
The answer is no.
So why were people who were in the system under the Constitution doing business with people who are outside of the system?
Energy.
So that means they breached their contract, which would be the Constitution for the United States of America, and it is hereby void. This is why on January 18th, 2018, or no, January 13th, 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court, out of a court case in the state of Georgia, ruled that judges can void the Constitution in court.
In favor of the plaintiff. Or...
No, they can void out the Constitution.
Oh, period.
Period. There's a video on YouTube. There's a judge in Bergen County, New Jersey, on the 31st of January in 2018. I've shown the video to other Autochthons, so those who have seen it, they can put it in the chat and attest to it.
Oh, that's good.
The Bergen County Court, the judge said, the Constitution is suspended for that purpose, and basically suspended the Constitution. State court judge don't have that. City court judge don't have that. However, since the 18th of 18 and 13 is 31. Yeah, so I was right. It was the 18th of January because 13 days later was when that judge did that on the 31st of July. So January 18th of 2013 was when the Constitution was voided out of that court case. And so when those decisions happen, the courts send out faxes and memos to law firms. They send them out to the state bar, and so they can look and see, here's a new stare decisis, which is the Latin for this is a new precedent. So when that judge in Bergen County, New Jersey, voided the Constitution out, and everybody was shocked, like, what? They don't understand that he has a right to do that because of that case out of the state of Georgia.
Right.
So the people who cannot contract, who are considered outside of the system, nobody's supposed to be signing no documents with them. That means all those documents are void. So what is going to potentially happen is this. There's a document or an article that came out by the Pure-Bright Institute where it said that the median income of African Americans is going to go to zero. Let me put it up on the screen because I've been saying a lot and I want to show this one at least. The median income of African Americans, this was reported by the UK Guardian. So, and this was back in 2017.
Oh.
Yep, 2017 on September 13th. Median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053.
The median, good Lord.
And I'm saying not 2053, I'm saying within 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, 2053 is so arbitrary, but.
Yes, and unfortunately they know, that's so long from now. So the main point, I'll put this here in the chat for those that don't have this article.
Right.
Okay. So everyone will have it for those that haven't seen this. So, where's it? A new report calculates that median wealth for Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053 if current trends continue. Latino Americans who are also experiencing a sustained downward wealth slide will hit zero about 2 decades later, according to the study by Prosperity Now and the Institute for Policy Studies. So Pure-Bright Institute, that was in the UK. That was for a different article. So they already know Black people are going to be poor. So now here's where the contractual side comes in. That's why they won't overturn Dred Scott, because if they overturned Dred Scott, they would be guilty of treason for contracting and violating the Constitution. That's your Alex Joneses, your Elon Musks, your Donald Trumps, Because every time
Oh.
you bring up Constitution, Black people cannot use that. They have no standing at law. That's fraud.
Right.
So they are pushing what's called pale supremacy for their genetic survival. And then in the process, they start invoking God into the contracts, which you can't do because in the Old Testament in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 19, you're not supposed to charge interest.
Right.
So if you have somebody who say they're a Christian banker and they have their congregants depositing money in their bank and they work at the bank, they're a banker, but they also go to church, they've just violated God's law. It's conflict of interest. It's fraud because it says, do not involve yourself with any usurious transactions. So your TD Jakes, Creflo Dollars, your Joel Silvers, all of them, all that point, everything they say is fraud. It's void at that point. So this is just indigenous heritage. See, this is how I have to give you the full gamut. So once you have gotten your indigenous heritage and you claim that, if the corporation has an issue with it, they have to say something. I've been doing this webinar since 2016. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing because they will bring their whole system down if they do that, because that meant they committed fraud by contracting with people that they know have no standing at law and have no rights. Then we get into statutory claim, proving you are not lost at sea under maritime law.
Maritime.
Once you've done those, then we get into training. Now, everyone is different. People learn differently. People learn at different speeds.
Right.
All those you have to get through first
before
even thinking about joining our nation, because you got to exercise competence. And soon we have some lobbying firms that we're looking at that will be doing lobbying on behalf of our nation in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. So all those in our nation got to demonstrate a level of competence. I'm more concerned about you being able to protect your position, whatever is going on in your world to defend yourself. And if you get if they gang up on you and you get hit from all angles, then we step in and say, no, you can't do that. This is the contract, and he has a right to do whatever. Now, if you guys go outside of that to try to create problems, now we get into human rights. And human rights applies to all levels of government under congressional record, page A3220.
Right.
So that's just giving you an encapsulation. So these Amorites don't want to overturn Dred Scott because it's either they'll have to give back, they'll have to admit they committed fraud, they'll have to give back the money that they gave to the Black people who worked for them. They weren't supposed to contract with them. So then the companies technically can tell all the Black people, even if they're in retirement, oh, all that money we done gave you, oh, you got to give that back. Oh, you ain't got the money? Well, guess what? You're going to have to turn your estate over to us. You're going to have to turn everything over to us. That essentially will put Black people back into slavery. Unfortunately, I don't understand why people who say they're studying commerce and law can't see this. On the other hand, for those who have, myself, who have become white, now what that means is, by them contracting, you gave money to these American Indians and gave them reservations, and they are actually migrants from Siberia.
Right.
And the land is ours. The planet is ours. That means whatever you guys have on your ledgers, that's ours. Because they got the gold, the silver, the platinum, the cell phones, the laptops, all of that was by the minerals that they stole from us. So once we claim we are white, we are the Autochthons, we're the indigenous, that puts them in a bind because they didn't have any authority to take our oil, take our resources, take our gold. And for that, that means even the clothes on their back, they have to give that to us because everything was acquired by theft. Fraud, voids of contract ab initio. This entire system on this planet is fraud. If it does not acknowledge that we were here first on the planet, Egypt was here in the West first before in Africa. That's why they got the military around the Grand Canyon, and they ain't letting nobody up in there, because you will see the steles that are in Egypt. You'll see them here. Then you'll say, what's going on? Oh, the mounds are actually the pyramids. They call them mounds, they're pyramids.
Pyramids.
So then that means, where was Egypt? Egypt was here first. And the one who told the truth on that was Abraham Lincoln, US President Abraham Lincoln, where he coined the phrase, this is the Egypt of the West. So that figures was here first before the Red Indians.
Well, it's plausible deniability with
not in this day and age. There is no plausible deniability. They got computers on everything. They're tracking everybody. There is no plausible deniability. That's out the window. What has to happen is the people who are indigenous, who know their history, they have to come forth. I've done that at the UN Human Rights Council and the social. Oh yeah, that's on that. My link is on. They've actually got my face on the UN as a thumbnail for the UN social at the Human Rights Council.
I haven't seen that on YouTube yet, but
no, that's on the UN website.
Oh, UN website. Okay.
Yeah, I can show you that. That's not even a problem. For those of you that came in, if you have a question or a video or need to prove, raise your hand or put it in the chat. Let's see here. So I had to save that one. Because it's on UN civil society participation. Let me see if this is it here. Okay, no, that's a listing of us. This is the other one. It's the UN web TV. Okay, so I have to go into my bookmarks and see bookmarks.
You okay, babe?
Yeah, that was the UN social that I did. UN social. There it is. Okay, this is the third meeting of the UN Social Forum. This was in Geneva, Switzerland. It was done virtually. So you got to register. Is this guy here in the background look familiar?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So this is the third meeting of the Social Forum 2023. Our nation, At-sik-hata Nation, we have two what they call shadow reports, which are reports that we filed against the United States of America. Furthermore, we've also got the two PhDs, Molefe Asante and Clyde Ledbetter Jr., who wrote a book called Contemporary Critical Thought in Africology and Africana. They mentioned us. I actually emailed him on the second one. I didn't hear back from either of those authors. So it doesn't matter because I'm still at the UN. There's no one in the Western Hemisphere doing what I'm doing to this degree. Malcolm X said, we're not going to campaign for civil rights anymore. You got to campaign for human rights. That's one of the myriad of reasons why he was assassinated. Right. So all the black people in the United States and Canada, and they're telling them to do stuff civilly, that's a trap. You're not going to go nowhere. This is from the 1960s. Nothing has improved. That means what you're doing is incorrect. So all the old goats that still want to do the same stuff that don't work, you got to get them old goats out the way, because the young generation is not going to listen to them. When they hear me, they're not going to listen to them because they say, you guys ain't doing nothing.
Right.
So let me see if I can.
Good morning,
quick,
everybody.
Because it's only my intervention.
The meeting is called to order.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. We reconvene for the second day of the 2023 Social Forum of the Human Rights Council on the contribution of science, technology, and innovation.
Corrected immediately.
It was great.
And highlighted by the international in that process. WIPO has those.
There we go.
But the mass killing of the Palestinian people carried out by a member state who has signed the UN Charter. We hope that the High Commissioner will answer the letter that was sent by this former member of staff. Thank you.
Thank you. At-sik-hata Nation of Yamasee You have the floor. He's not in the room?
Yes, yes, I'm here. Greetings.
Oh, yes. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please proceed.
Yes. Thank you. On behalf of our nation, challenges and risks. One of the challenges for emerging technologies is admitting to a serious software programming error. Black means pale in Old English. Currently, the computer sees hashtag 6 zeros. White, as defined by computer programming code, is hashtag 6 Fs. White also means a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, as defined by the Center for Disease Control, ACRO, U.S. Department of Education. This programming error must be corrected immediately. The legal maxim is Black has no standing at law. With facial recognition technology biased toward darker skin complexions, human rights abuses will potentially happen by current and emerging technology. Black is not even defined in Black's Law Dictionary. How and who will punish a computer for violating human rights? What is a computer punishment for violating human rights? How will the courts enforce this? Can they enforce punishment against a computer for violation of human rights? Currently, human neurons and human aura energy are being stolen by Wi-Fi body area networks with the full knowledge of government examples, Canada's knowledge of biodivergence happening now. What is the remedy? Tauhat to the Nitiru. Thank you for all participants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eloquently stated.
So all these other people running around, these other groups running around here, you got to be there. And they're not, that means they are domestic. Domestic is a house, domicile. They are domestic. They are not international.
Right.
And Congressional Record, page A3220 of May 11, 1955, which was entered into the U.S. Congress, where the Constitution, the U.S. Congress isn't bound by the Constitution. They must promote human rights in the 5 fields of endeavor: economic, social, cultural, civil, and political.
Right.
African American has no stand in that law. So you got to get white. That is your remedy. There is no other remedy out there. Before you can contract, before you can do business, before you can do any of that, you got to have standing. You got to get white.
Yeah, understood.
All white. Anything else?
No, that's really good. Well, you in joining the nation, I guess one more question is, I don't have to denounce Jesus as Lord, do I?
Oh, yes, you do.
Do tell me.
You know why you have to do that here? I'm going to show you. I'm glad you asked that question. Where are we at here?
That's what I'm most uncomfortable with.
Well, I'm going to show you why you may not want to be calling on Jesus anytime soon, because Jesus did you a disservice. Let me see here. Okay, there is a book called How to Make a Negro Christian. This one should have the link, and I'll put this in the chat. Okay. For you. Let me see here. Negro. There we go. So I'm going to put the link in here for those of you that do not have it.
Okay, thanks.
Chat or share. Okay, chat. All right, so everyone, if you don't have it, you have it now. So this is the purpose under chapter 4. It's called benefits. Let me just do something here so we can put this in to, as they say, context for you.
Okay.
What I want to use. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, so this is the religious instruction of the Negro by Charles Cole Cock Jones, 1804 to 1863. So this is 63. So this is 6 years after the Dred Scott decision came down.
Right.
So this is on I think this is University Doc South University of North Carolina, I guess UNC.
Okay.
So when we go down, we're going to go down to page 206. Now, as I was showing you in the email, you see chapter 4, the benefits. Let us proceed to the more agreeable employment of showing the benefits which would flow from the religious instruction of the Negroes. So even though 1803, okay, so when was slavery abolished in the US?
Oh, wow, that was under Lincoln, right?
What year? I'm just
Oh, I don't recall offhand.
okay. We're gonna have to see the computer here. I'm just gonna pull up an extra tab. The date escapes me when slavery was abolished, supposedly abolished in the US. US slavery abolished. That's why dates and numbers are important.
Right.
Okay, abolished slavery. Okay, passed by December 3rd, ratified December 13th Amendment. Okay, so they say the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. When did slavery end? Did the United States abolish slavery in 1865? 13th Amendment was ratified. It was ratified on December 6, 1865. But the Dred Scott decision was already rendered before that. So there's no way that can be voided.
1857, right.
All right, 1857. This is 1864. When did slavery really end in the USA? December of 1865. Okay, so again, that still is 8 years after Dred Scott. And that's a Supreme Court decision. So 13th Amendment never overturned that. That dealt, and the original one dealt with titles of nobility. That's the one they hide. This is where people who are esquires, that are lawyers and are esquires, they're actually agents of England. So they're committing treason by saying they're a U.S. person representing somebody who is a U.S. person, but meanwhile they have the title of nobility, and that was the original 13th Amendment with 2 sections. Pardon me, the original 13th Amendment with 20 sections. Amorites only talk about the 13th Amendment with 2 sections, but there was a 13th Amendment with 20 sections, and you couldn't have a foreign title of nobility. So that's there. Let me make sure that everyone has it. Okay, good. So now we can go back to here, 1803 to Mr. Colcock Jones. So what was the publishing date here? 1842. So this was before Dred Scott.
Right.
So the mentality was blacks were good for slaves. And that has not changed even amongst their descendants.
That's true.
So chapter 4, benefits. Let us proceed to the more agreeable employment of showing the benefits which would flow from the religious instruction of the Negroes. In bold, there would be a better understanding of the relation of master and servant and of their reciprocal duties. So they'll accept, hey, you're a slave, that's your position, that's you stay there. You don't go outside of being a slave. You don't try to bring yourself up out of that. Now, the next thing is such an attempt in part at a discharge of duty on religious grounds will produce favorable influences upon the feelings and conduct of servants. Religion will cause them to understand their duties better and to perform them more perfectly and cheerfully. That's why they like the song, Whistle While You Work.
Right.
The pecuniary interests of masters will be advanced as a necessary consequence in bold. So any black Christian that wants to come here will have to do a declaration of fraud and serve it on their pastor. Because according to Matthew chapter 5, verse 33, it says, no man shall make swear an oath. That whole Beatitudes talks about oaths and things you should and should not do. And they're quoting their boy Jesus. In there, he said, do not swear to God, do not swear to heaven, do not swear to earth, it is his footstool. Do not swear to any man. Let your communication be yea, yea, or nay, nay. Anything outside of these is of evil. When Black people go to court, and they've been going to court, especially when they ain't got money, and all of a sudden, bam, put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. So at that point, they're swearing the oath as a Christian, became a Christian. Oh, Black has no standing at law. So we got them to trick themselves back into bondage. Then when they go up into court, we seeking justice. They get just ice. And so then they're saying this is messed up, but they're not looking at their pre-existing contracts. And the Black lawyers are useless for the most part. I know one attorney, a lawyer in New York. She came on my webinar. She went all the way through and got her certificate of service. And she sent her documentation from coming on the webinar to the state bar for the state of New York. So the state of New York knows who I am. They know what the SF-181 is. We had another one. He was a dean at a middle school, like a high school in Chicago. And he was coming on our open Q&As, came on the webinar. He went down to Florida for a vacation and ran into an attorney from New York. And then at the sitting by poolside having chit chat conversation, and then the subject of, you know, race and ethnicity came up, SF-181 came up, and the attorney said, I hate that form. He said, why do you hate that? I just hate that form. He said, well, why aren't you telling your clients, why aren't you filling that out for your clients? He said, they have to do that. So in light of those pre-existing contracts, Christianity, the woman who used to be a KKK member, I showed that video before, and I think I might have that in my email. She said Christianity has been used to subjugate you all.
Right. That's true.
Used for you all to overcome. You all have been singing, we shall overcome.
Right.
Since beyond, and you still ain't overcame. That means you're not going to overcome, which means God is not for you. You are worshiping the God of your oppressor. That's rule number one. Control the slaves' language, control their education, and control their God. Once you replace their God, you become, or in this case, the oppressor who's pale becomes their God. The God of the Chinese looks Chinese. The God of the Hindu looks Indus Kush. The God of Italians looks pale. But when it comes to Black people, their God is a pale Jesus. I'm not going for that nonsense. And so finally, from a historical point, when you go into YouTube, there is a documentary. I'm going to put that link in the chat too. And it is called Caesar's Messiah. The picture of the Jesus that people have been taught and programmed with, that is Jesus. It's not fact. It's a lie. That is actually Caesar Borgia, one of the Pope's sons. Let's see. What's that movie? Caesar's Messiah. And this documentary shows that Jesus never existed. He was a literary character that was created by the Romans to create a religion that would be in competition with Judaism. That's why the Romans did that. The Roman conspiracy to invent Jesus is not a conspiracy, it's a fact. They invented Christianity, as they call it, was created by the Romans. So I'm going to put the link here in the chat so everyone has it. Make sure you double click, bookmark, and save. Let's see if I can get the, oh, there we go. And so the Flavius family, the Piso, all of that, that was all created. And it's funny because The one who created religion was a Jew who converted into being a Roman and came up with the idea, let's create a religion. So these are the points I'm bringing, like, look, this right here, that picture, I don't know if I can pause it. Yeah. Where they keep showing the what they call it, cavalry.
Right.
There is a skill.
There's no evidence that he ever existed. And so this is where you see how deep the mind control has been put on Black people, because they have their oppressor's spiritual system as a basis of their existence and their morals. So so realizing that doesn't help them. If anything, what it does, I'm just trying to get to that crucifix. Now all of a sudden I can't find it. I just got to scan here. What it does is it shows that this was a creation. This is the earliest form. Okay, we'll use that one. I could rock with that one. This is the earliest form of mind control that was done on the original people of the planet. But when you go to science, science says pale skin is a genetic recessive trait. So they can't go out in the sunlight without fear of skin cancer. Or if they go out, they get skin cancer, they get burns. Why is that? They have no carbon in their skin or a sufficient amount to protect them from the UV rays coming from the sun.
Right.
So therefore, again, God, according to in Genesis, created man of the dust of the earth. He created the man of mud. So that meant God is a nigger. That means that, and just please don't take offense, nigger is a title of nobility that goes back to the Nagas serpents in Eastern.
Oh, right.
So that's where that comes, and it also ties into your Kundalini energy. That's why they want people to say the N-word, because if y'all start chanting nigger, y'all are going to heat the sun up. Y'all will start to get hot and start causing the planet to get warm just by chanting the word nigger. That's why they started telling the rappers, no, we don't want you saying this. He said the N-word. Who is this? Hold on. Somebody from New York calling. Whoa. Greetings. Greetings.
Greetings, Chief. How are you?
I am that I am. I'm white that I'm white. Who am I speaking with?
How are you? You still in Canada, both Chief, Brother Chief, Brother Chief?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm actually on the webinar. Are you so you got some? Go ahead.
No, I haven't been on in a while. I just have a brother on the line, Brother Kyle, and he had a question, and I wanted to make sure he had his question.
Well, here, hold on a second. Hold on a second, everyone on webinar. Just give me one moment here.
That's in the link.
The call will be.
He just wanted to explain to him the reason why we're still considered slaves, and we have two constitutions, and
that's no problem. That is no problem.
Okay,
let me get you.
Elections divided his family, and he want to make speak to his family about it.
Let me see where we at here. I'm just trying to get to what's the quickest way I can get to the link here.
Text me the link, and I'll text him the link so he can jump on as well.
Yeah, that's no problem. I just like doing it. I just like doing this. When yeah, I like doing this. Okay, copy invite link. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here in Autochthon, and then I'm gonna text it to you. I just would like to do it while I'm on the phone with you, so we have like a computer or a technology witness, and I don't want to hear, oh, I didn't get it. Okay, so here's the link here. If you have any problem, okay, hold on. If you have any problem, you call me back if you have a problem getting in, but you should be able to get in.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second here.
What time is it? I'm in Texas, so it's 8 o'clock out here. So
yeah, it's only 6:52 here, so we're an hour behind you. We're in Mountain Standard Time.
Okay.
All right, so I got that here. So copy, and now I'm gonna send that to you. Okay. Okay, well, let me see here. Can I should be able to text you while I'm on the phone with you. No, okay, so let's hang up and I'll send you the text.
All right. Quick question. Do you have a reference, like a website you can go to and read up on that part?
Come on the webinar and we can answer all that.
Okay.
All right.
On the webinar. Okay. All right.
Okay, so now I'm gonna send her the text and she should be coming in shortly. All right. So where were we? I'm telling you,
Yep.
man, this is synchronicity. Where were we at? Okay, Jesus. Okay, yeah, I wanted to pull that picture up here. I don't care which picture it is. So what was I saying, if you recall?
Oh, you were saying that Christianity was used to program the Negro. You were also saying that nigger is a profound term to cause heat, and
Yes.
that they're trying to get the rappers not to say that often or at all.
Yes, correct. Let me see here. Yeah, of all the times I can't get a crucifix picture, ain't that amazing? Yeah, I just want to use the one out of this video. I don't want to go search up one or just a picture. Boy, this is hot. This is great, 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 great. Okay, so that's the Romans. And there's a picture. I'm just scanning everyone. Just hold on a second. For those of you that just came in, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. If you have a video or document I have to prove, please put that in the chat as well. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, so, okay, I see it right here. Okay, let's see if this is it. Okay, so I'll just give. Yeah, I just want a small picture. Okay, this is Josephus. Nope, nope, nope. The Judeo-Christian dynasty. Okay. Yeah, I'm clicking on it and it just doesn't seem to be coming in. You know, why is this not coming up? Just bear with me.
Oh, sure.
Okay, there it is. That's the one. Okay, so for an example, okay. Yeah, I keep skipping that one. I just keep trying to get that. Yep, they don't want me to show that one. Okay, okay, good. I'll use this one here then. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so Pontius Pilate. Okay, there we go. So I can back this up a little bit and let it play. Okay, so images like that, or this one here. Yeah, okay, this will be coming up about here. That image or that one coming up here current right now. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so what they call Israel Palestine is in Northeast Africa. Hot country, hot area. So knowing that the people here in the West who have pale skin have a very difficult time coming onto a beach. They're good for about an hour if they bother to use sunscreen at all. This is the image that they're putting. Science says that that is a genetic defect.
Right.
So based on what science says that being a genetic defect, there is no way that who they're calling Jesus of Nazareth or Jesus of Bethlehem or what have you, there's no way they're going to convince me that that is an image of healthiness or an image of the Most High. And the reason for that is, again, we go back to Genesis, that God built, created man of the dust of the earth, and man became a living soul. The dirt is dark. You got dark, brown, and red dirt on the planet.
Right.
So he's not red, he's not dark, he's not brown, and he's pink at best. So that is a spiritual, if you will, encapsulation of the spirituality of the fact that the Black preachers, they were actually there to breed the Black women in the churches. That's what the purpose was. So when the women got the Holy Spirit and started convulsing, the slave masters would tell the pastor, if he had a master, more than likely, that, okay, they tell his master, yeah, we would have that pastor breed with this girl because we could see she was in heat. These are all historical facts. These are not my opinions. And so due to this, this brings me now to a document I did, which is at W3C. They set the computer programming protocols on the planet. Let's see, we'll call, what is it, leper or pale? Let's go with pale supremacy. Pale supremacy. Okay, we could do that on the yeah, we'll do it that way. So this is a link to a document that I did, which is on file with the W3C. It's called Pale Supremacy. And this was done way back in 2022.
Right.
Did I just clicked on this? Okay, here we go. So it's on my Calamio page, and this is the definition. So I'm going to put this link in the chat so everybody has it. If you see leper supremacy, because that's another one of my definitions, it's the same. I just changed the title. So pale supremacy, mutant supremacy, which is the same. All of those are the same, and I have to do an update to it because we got a better syntax to define the people who are calling themselves white, and they're not. All right, so this is it. So racism, can you see that? And it's in the chat for everybody. So racism, pale supremacy. And this is an update from leper supremacy. So racism equals pale supremacy.
Wow.
Pale supremacy includes the star constellations of Pleiades, Aldebaran, Europa, also albino, albinism, Amorite, Canaanite or Canaanite, Neanderthal, Tamhu, mutant, leper supremacy, misnomer, white. They all mean the same thing. So pale, mutant, leper supremacy definition. Racism equals pale supremacy. Racism equals pale supremacy is a pale alien public notice, poppin with PAPN, brought to this planet, exported from the star constellations of Pleiades, Aldebaran, and Europa. Notice that Europa is the name of an Ethiopian princess, and the definition of white as defined by the U.S. Department of Education is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. This, what they brought to this planet is the local, national, global, solar system, galaxy matrix, 3D holographic, illusionary, computer, electrical, science, commercial, economic, entertainment, educational, military, industrial, power system construct, and dynamic, structured and maintained by pale people, mutants, lepers, albinos, albinism, Amorite, Canaanite, Neanderthals, Tamhu, genetically recessive beings who deliberately misidentify themselves as white. You could call this identity theft. You're a white man. They're not. When they are in fact pale, mutants, lepers, albinos, albinism, Amorite, Canaanite, Neanderthals, Tamhu. Refer to definition on page 3 of Racism Equals Pale Supremacy and the Holy Tablets, chapter 6, tablet 6, verse 277 to 278. Pale people, mutants, lepers, albinos, albinism, Amorite, Canaanite, Neanderthals, Tamhu, in association with other non-planetary, multidimensional, and interplanetary entities, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of syntax, mathematics, chemistry, physics, biology, perception, logic, symbol formation, thoughts, speech, action, spiritual, mental, temporal, energy, definition, code, language, tone, vibration, frequency, sound, light, resonance, motion, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people, sick, contracts, commerce.
I'm following.
Commercial activity. This includes economics, education, trade, transactions, health, environment, industry. Pardon me, I'm just moving back there. Industry, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religions, military, industry, sports, science, medicine, sex, and war, for the ultimate purpose of pale peoples, mutants, lepers, albinos, albinism, Amorites, Canaanites, Neanderthals, Tamhus, misnomer, white, Caucasian, because they're not white and they're not Caucasian, genetic survival, and to prevent pale peoples, mutants, lepers, albinos, albinism, Amorites, Canaanites, Neanderthals, Tamhus, genetic annihilation. The Holy Tablets, chapter 6, tablet 6, verse 284 to 304. So as you can see, the pale race are originally from another planet. They are star people. They do not belong here, but their ancestors from the stars want to take over this planet. So this is why all of this is, you can't ignore the fact they want to make the universe pale, yet everything was in darkness first.
Right.
So this is where, when you acknowledge that, yes, they want to see everything, it's got to be blonde hair, blue eyed, it's got to be pale, it's got to be lily white, the angels are white. That is their mentality of, they realize they are surrounded by darkness.
Right. I can see.
So now I get how they feel when they walk and there's a whole bunch of dark people. They go to sleep, they close their eyes at night, they see darkness. They in the room, when they open their eyes in the room, it's darkness. They go to a club, it's darkness. They go to what they call a black tie affair, you got to wear dark. They go to a club, it's in the dark. So they're surrounded by darkness, so it's driving them mad because they don't have a connection like that to the darkness, because they're saying, well, their skin is pale, your skin is copper colored. They're like, hold on, what's going on here? Your hair grows toward the sun, theirs grows away from it.
Oh, that's
so
right.
That tells you something. That's why their hair is flanked. That's why it's 6 ether, ours is 9 ether, and if you burn it, it forms the shape of a 9.
Right. That's interesting. That's true. I can see that.
In darkness of all that, holding on to a spiritual system of your oppressor is not going to totally free you. And now, since they can scan bodies, they have the personal body area network and the body area network, they're going to be able to discern people who are serious about being white from black people who just say it on paper, but when they look at their cells, they look at how their brain is firing, they look at their neurons, they're like, oh, this person's lying. They're not really embracing being white. They're just saying it because they can get, oh, if I got the paper, the contract, and show it, people will say, oh yeah, they're white, and they figure nobody's going to resist or challenge that. But yes, you will get challenged, you'll get tested. It's not going to be, you just fill the paperwork out and that's it. You got to fight for it. And if you're not going to fight for being white, All white?
I'll definitely fight for being white. I believe that. It's just denouncing Jesus as a whole would bother me.
Well, that's something you're going to have to go to your pastor to ask him to tell you the truth about Yahshua HaMashiach, because he was called Yahshua HaMashiach, which was the Messiah, comes from the word Mesa, which means to wipe clean. Christ is Christos, that is Greek, that means anointed. There's a difference between being anointed and being and wiping away. Because most Christians, Black Christians, will say, well, he came to wipe away the sins of the earth. That means he's the Messiah, not the Christ. So if they say Jesus Christ, they're talking about somebody else. They're not talking about the Messiah. And then furthermore, on that subject, we have to acknowledge the fact that the Old Testament can be validated. The New Testament cannot be, because the New Testament was written and it's primarily letters. Even the book of Revelation, that comes from the Zoroastrian religion. Revelation is not a Christian book. Revelation comes from Zoroastrianism. And so these things are matters that you would have to ask your preacher that, okay, how are we to be bowing to an image that does not look like us, but the people that oppress us will never bow to an image that looks like us? That's spiritual slavery now. And remember the what they're talking about with denouncing, you got to go back to Egypt, because most preachers do not speak they don't speak Hebrew, they don't speak Amharic, they don't speak Greek, they don't speak none of the biblical language. They don't teach them. They say, here's the King James and this is the word of God. That's good enough. No, that's not the language it was revealed in, because if they started looking at the language it was revealed in, they'll see the secrets. Genesis in chapter 1 verse 1 said, God created the heaven and earth in the beginning. But the beginning was the word was with God, the word was God. Time out. In Strong's Concordance 430, the word is Elohim, and Elohim means these beings. So that means there was a group of beings in the beginning that created the heavens, Nut, and the earth, Ta and Geb, right? So you have Ta is the earth, Geb, the sky, Nut, and then you have Ta, Mu, water, Tefnut, and Shu is the air and the water. So that's the Tamarian mystery, as they call it. So that's talking about Egypt. In the beginning, God created, there was void on the face of the deep, and God created the earth, and then he created everything that was in it, every creeping thing that creepeth upon the planet. All of that's Egypt. Christianity is only 2,000 years old. So how are you worshiping some spiritual system or honoring a system that only has a 2,000-year-old history, where I can go on a documentary and they have a drawing of a cow in a cave in Egypt that they've dated at 17,000 years old. And then the pyramids back to 10 million years old. Then the bones of Lucy found in Ethiopia, anywhere from Lucy is what, 1.5, 2 million years old. Then they found another one in Kenya going back to about 5 or 4 million years old. We've been here.
No, yeah, that's absolutely true.
So this is where the problem comes in with the spiritual side of it, because it's meant to keep you sedated. It's meant for you to enjoy your bondage and not seek or look at anything outside of the bondage. And this is where a lot of people don't know the Black preachers are Masons and Shriners. And that's why they're in those positions, because they've taken spiritual oaths to the devil. They can speak the truth. They can say the truth. Truth is truth regardless of who it comes from. However, the reality of the situation is, whose side are they on and who are they worshiping ultimately? So one cannot want freedom from this commercial system, but then want to worship their oppressor's spiritual system. You can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and Mammon. It's one or the other. And in this case, since you now know that God is in the Bible from the Strong's Concordance 430 is Elohim, which is plural of the Chaldean Syriac Hebrew El Elo. Now you know that's it. And then we take it back to the original name of God is Hu-He. Because when you put YHWH, Hebrew is read from right to left. English is left to right. When you read it from right to left, it gives you Hu-He or Hu, which is the original deity of ancient Egypt, who's outside of this time system. That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, wow. Right. I'm seeing your point. I'm seeing your point.
So where to help you bridge that time lapse gap that you're missing, you got to go back to Egypt. And you can't go back to Egypt being Black or African American, because the so-called Egyptians over in Africa now, they have a problem because people are starting to realize they are invaders and pale Arabs who came in and conquered after Alexander the Great and the Syrians and all of those, and took over Egypt and said, oh, this is great. We're not going to destroy the architecture. We're going to leave this. So now we know Autochthons who are on our webinar and other people who've traveled there that the Arabs know. And I've seen the videos of Arab cab drivers in Egypt saying the original Egyptians who built the pyramids, they said it's the Nubians, and Nubia is south, which is really north, and Cairo is south. That's another thing people don't understand, because the river flows all the way down from further from the Tigris Euphrates. I forget the country. It's not Zimbabwe, but it's like all the way down the White Nile, and then the White Nile splits from the White Nile into the Blue Nile. And I saw a documentary where the Nile actually starts from.
Oh, wow.
And it's all off in some bushes, and then the water, it slowly moves, but you can't even see it because it's underneath, it's in the dirt, and then it starts a slow, small stream, and then it leads all the way up to there. So this is where you're bridging the gap of saying, okay, I'm supposed to worship a character from 2,000 years ago that never existed, that was created by the Romans, and that is supposed to give me spiritual salvation. How? And then that's where you demand an interlinear or a transliterated Bible, because in there, that's where you will see word for word what is actually said. When you see Elohim, which means these beings, which is more than one singular, that tells you they're hiding information. So they put it in English and people will just accept the English. You turn around and say, I want to see something that's got the language translated from the original language into English. They won't be able to lie to you.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I'll pursue that. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, and so what they call Jesus in what they're calling Jesus now is really Hiru, who was the son of Asar, which they call Osiris in the Greek. And he was the one that conquered death. And Asar came back to show that death can be conquered.
Osiris I've heard of, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I have.
All right. So great chat. Much appreciated.
Yes.
And then we're going to look at, I don't know if we'll be able to do it today, but if not, we'll do it maybe sometime this week where we can do the video scan for the screening for the webinar.
Oh yeah, I have the documentation as well. So yes.
All right. So you let me know when you're ready, and if not, then we'll just do it on the webinar. All right.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Baba Tunde down in Jamaica.
Oh my gosh, I hung.
Yeah. Greetings to all sacred Nigga ancestors who are makers of the multiverse. A little bit beaten and tired, but gratitude to all, gratitude to you, Chief, and all the other white Autochtons. All right, so that thing you played with UN, your presentation. I only have one question tonight.
Yes.
If you could just play so all the niggers here get to hear the response of the peeps from the UN. I know you posted in the chat, but I'm thinking that it would really be irate to hear what the response from the peeps at the UN was.
Oh, I'll give it to you, but there's no response because it's an intervention. They don't do a back and forth. They move on to the next speaker.
Oh.
Yeah, they move on to the next speaker.
All right, the next comment to Shaayuaat, I think. So welcome, brother. I have gratefully and in a most honorable way transcend where you are now. I remember in the 90s when I was being confronted, you know, in church and new information that was presented at the time. Yeah, gratitude to my second father again, because I always knew that there was a something greater other than what we were taught in church. And it was a tedious task, really tedious. When religion tried to capture your brain and put handcuffs on your head, put all those slave braids that you see that have our ancestors in and all. Yeah, but if you're interested in truth, I am confident that you'll triumph. So you're at the right place. Chief is here. Yeah. Over to you, Chief.
Oh yeah.